Good evening, everybody. It is David McCoy, Ochimo Properties, Real Estate Matters. Tonight I thought we've been talking in this last series a bit about investors, questions that investors might have or topics that might be of interest to them. And I thought tonight we would just chat a little bit about vacation or resort properties. Or sometimes second home properties. And again, we're just going to scratch the surface a little bit on that. It's like so many of the other things, it's a large topic and you could spend quite a bit of time talking about various aspects of that. But I guess there are all kinds of different ways that you might have vacation or resort properties, and there are different ways that you might choose to use those as an investment, or I'm using the term investment in a broad sense. Many times people are buying these second homes for vacation homes, or they might be retirement homes. And so it's a broad category, but I think that one thing, I know that there was a time, and to a certain extent I still tend to think this way, I try not to, but I kind of thought about those in terms of condos on the beach. And that's one very good category, but the vacation home market is actually pretty broad. I think of the beach because the beach is probably my favorite area. I like to go where it's warm. I like the ocean. I like the sand and sun. And so that's where I tend to think about that. But it's not just that. Some people maybe are buying retirement homes. Those retirement homes could be a number of things. They may be choosing to go to a better climate. They might also be choosing to go to a place where there's a nice standard of living, but it's less expensive. We'll talk about that in another video or two, and that might be out of the country. You might go to, say, Costa Rica or Nicaragua or someplace like that where the cost of living is quite a bit less, and you can have a much higher standard of living for the same amount of money. But a lot of these things, it's more than just, say, beach houses. It might also be, say, mountain houses. There are people who are interested in, say, vineyard properties. And there's, of course, we have that in California, but those tend to be so expensive. The average family, probably that would be out of the reach for most of them. But there are other places in the world and in the country where you could go and have a similar experience, but it would be less. Or perhaps it is if you're a skier. If you like winter weather more than summer weather, you might want to have a property where people ski. Traditionally, I think I mentioned, I usually thought primarily about, warm climate, beach kind of things, and I expanded that a little bit to sort of mountain and skiing and all that, but it can be a number of things. There are people who buy lake houses. There is, I learned earlier or toward the end of last year about a group. It started out, it was a town where it had a lot of really good fishing. And the fishing was for 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. And during that 2 or 3 weeks out of the year, the place was packed. They could not support everybody who wanted to come there and fish. And the people of the town kind of got together and they thought, what can we do? Can we extend this a little bit? And over time, at first they just kind of had some activities maybe the week before and the week after the big fishing season, and then they kind of gradually expanded that and they came up with other activities during the year, and now they're a year-round resort town. So people will go for different reasons. There's also people who go for things like there's a series of bike trails, and there's a lot of homes and things along those bike trails. So it's a broader category than you might think. It also tends to be primarily homes that people will buy. It's usually not condos, which kind of surprised me when I found that out. So there's all kinds of ways. And one of the things that I think is a good idea is if you're going to buy that kind of a property and then lease it out, you want to think about, the kind of cash flow it has, the expenses it might have, and it should be someplace or something that you like to do. Because that's one of the reasons to have it, of course, is so that you can go there and you can spend some vacation time there. There are some rules, tax rules about how you can use that and the amount of time you can use. And those tax rules really have to do with if it's sort of a rental property or something along those lines and you're using it for that purpose, then you're allowed to do things like depreciate the condo or the house, and that gives you a nice tax advantage. And so you have to comply with those rules in order to benefit from those taxes. And of course, if you don't benefit from it, then you may not be able to do the taxes. But of course, that would completely change the viability financially of that project. It might still be viable, but you would have to completely redo your forecast and your calculations of the revenue and expenses for it to see if it still worked for you as an investment. But it's really a much broader category than you might think. We mentioned all these different ideas: skiing, swimming, surfing, biking. It's really pretty amazing the variety of it, and it's also all over the world, different countries, different places, different experiences. So it is quite a broad topic. If you're doing it for an investment, you of course need to figure out the best way to make that work. Some of the places, especially some of the condo associations, and where you have vacation condos, those groups will often offer to lease those out for you, and that will help keep your occupancy higher. But they also generally charge a pretty high fee for that. And that's okay. I mean, if they're going to do that, especially if they're going to maintain it and say, do the cleaning for you when they go out and get it ready for the next group and all those kinds of things. But again, you just have to take that into account. Does it still cash flow when you add that in? If it doesn't cash flow, is there another alternative, another way that you can accomplish the same thing and maybe not have to pay so much out in doing that? So, I happen to, because of the work I do and especially like with international people, and I do a lot of work with people who work with in resort areas, in resort towns, and so I know really people all over the world. So if you have questions about that, I do not do a lot of resort work. My main focus is on commercial real estate. But I have tons of people I know all over the world who could probably be very beneficial if you ever needed to know someone or ask some questions about that. So I'm going to call it that for a night for today. And I know we just barely touched the surface there. There's so much that we could talk about, and we'll probably get a little more in depth with kind of some subtopics of this down the road. But I hope you have a great evening. If you like this video, I hope you will click like for me. If you think somebody else might benefit from it, please click share. And if you want to see some of these videos upcoming, please hit subscribe. And it happens to be Mardi Gras tonight. I don't know that I should have put a time on this, but it is. It's Mardi Gras or Carnival. So if you are celebrating Mardi Gras or Carnival, I hope you have a terrific evening tonight. We're going to have a little gumbo here in just about an hour or so. So have a great evening, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.